A secret group practicing satanic rituals lets their faith slip. In doing so, they face a reckoning by the big guy himself.
The agents find themselves caught in the middle of this small-town cult and a vengeful, pissed-off devil.
This is not happening. This is not happening.
Sounds fine with me. Good. That's good.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right. Starting Monday, the track around the athletic field will be closed to joggers at 8:30 p.m. instead of 10. Any other items before we call it a night?
Yeah. Now, I got wind that for the spring drama production, Howard Roberts intends to put on Jesus Christ Superstar.
You know how he is. Howard's just trying to do things the kids like.
My point exactly.
I don't think that play is appropriate for this high school.
Well, if he wants to be young, I have no problems with Grease or Annie or...
Doesn't Grease have the F word?
Look, I'll talk to Howard. Okay, let's adjourn till next week. Deborah, why don't you lead us in the prayer?
Jim, the game is on.
It'll only take a minute. We've been letting it slip.
Paul, why don't you get the door?
In the name of the Lords of Darkness, rulers of the earth, kings of the underworld, I command the forces of darkness to bestow their infernal power upon me.
Sein ist die Hand die verletzt.
Sein ist die Hand, die verletzt.
Sein ist der Ort genannt Hölle.
Sein ist der Ort genannt Hölle.
May the black powers of our forefathers make us strong.
Hail, hail the Lords of Darkness.
Welcome back, everyone, to the show. You are listening to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast with me, your host, Andrew, and as always, joined by Mike. Mike, say hello to the nice people.
Ethan Van Housen Feitlinger.
I'm sorry, I don't speak X-Files. What?
That's German, sir.
Oh, and what does it mean?
Anyone who
played,
played... I don't remember. I don't remember what it means,
Ich bin,
but I know it means something.
Ich bin in Berliner. Berliner.
Nein! Okay, this can devolve real quick into Scheiße.
Oh, should this be a German Andrew episode where I speak in a German accent?
I don't think at least one of our fans would appreciate that.
You don't think that would be a winner?
Probably not.
Given that there is no legit German connection in this particular show, other than they say a few words in German, I don't think it sells. But if you have not guessed, fair people, we are going to be reviewing Die Hand Die Verletzt, the 10th episode in season 2. The 14th, my God, we're
no, you were way off. I was like 10.
Yeah.
No way. I was thinking. I was like, I know one of them's 13. I can't remember which one.
Written by Morgan and Wong, and this is the last episode they write for the show. They're going to go off and create space above and beyond. So they were going to have no more to do with this X-Files nonsense. They're going to go do some serious science fiction.
Oh, they come back.
Yeah, but not for a while.
Oh, you were doing it for dramatic. Okay, I'll cut that.
Yeah, I was just trying to lead to a cliff, make us all worry that this was the end.
All right.
And first time directed by Kim Manners.
Kim.
Yeah.
He is a great director for this show.
Almost
didn't happen.
Oh, yeah? I don't know the story behind
that. They had a different director lined up.
Who did they have?
Actually, I am to understand Morgan, when the other director fell through, lobbied for Manners, and it turned out to be one of the best things because Kim Manners went on to direct quite a few excellent episodes. So.
I think he's like one of the series' most prolific directors. Like he directs a lot of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who the original director was supposed to be?
I don't. I don't have that name.
Die Hand Die Verletzt is German for the hand that wounds. And it's a spicy little bit of business at the beginning, which we'll get into shortly. And let me just say, German is just a dire sounding language.
It is.
Anything you say in that language, you say it the right tone of voice, it's sinister.
It's an angry language, and I mean that with all respect. It's just it has a cadence to it, I think.
There is a song done by a band I like called Tool. Maybe you've heard of them.
Oh.
It's called Die Eier von Satan, which means Satan's balls. And it is an industrial track that is a recipe for a weird pastry, but it's spoken in German with this Hitler style of speaking, and a little audience soundtrack of, screaming in response, cheering them on or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It's ridiculous. And of course, you translate it, it's this weird recipe, for nothing. But again, it's all about the way you say something. So look it up if you haven't and you want to be creeped out. Or not. Just watch the X-Files.
I'm thinking about it.
If you haven't, Tool's a cool band. If you want, you'd be cool to listen to them.
Tool is cool. Cool Tool.
Did you want to hand it over to me to start?
I will, yes, de-hand it to you.
To verlitz it up?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. We open at a parent-teacher committee meeting in Milford Haven, New Hampshire. Camera opens on a spotlit emblem of the committee. Looks like a little poster board on the wall, illuminated by a spotlight. It is a book on a laurel branch with a snake curling around a mountain, maybe? The words "live free or die" are inscribed in this book, and the monotonous business of the committee is wrapping up. As the meeting comes to a close, the chair, Jim Osbury, suggests that Deborah lead them in a prayer to the lament of Paul Vitaris, who looks like the gym teacher. The game is on. Come on.
Come on.
But they've been letting the prayers slip. In private, the four begin a prayer, but it's no ordinary prayer. It sounds like a prayer to Satan. And with the lights fading in and out in that room, Mark Snow's super ominous music, you know that nothing good is going to come of this. Cut to credits.
What a delightful bait and switch. Like you think it's just going to be your normal Christian prayer for 90s television. Then it just turns into something different.
You know that nothing good is going to come of this. Like, the open is so pedestrian. You're just watching this going, okay, I get there's a little tension in the room, but like, when's the monster going to come out and kill them? What is going on in this room?
Right.
So when he pulls out the red candle, starts lighting it, it's like, uh-oh. It's one of those prayers.
Okay, so I think I'm going to get these out of the way.
Our retreads, go for it, yeah.
Our retreads. So we have P. Lynn Johnson. She is seen in Born Again and Small Potatoes. Michelle Goodger, who plays Barbara Osbury, and was also Sister Abigail in Gender Bender.
Oh, that's a way back, yeah.
My main man, Larry Musser. We all know, I don't need to say what he's been in.
No, you do, because people don't listen to everything.
All right. That's true. Okay, Larry Musser, who will be seen. Right, and God damn it, I can't fucking think of the episodes. We just said it. Fucking season 3.
Jose Chung's from Outer Space.
Jose Chung. Yeah. Okay. Larry Musser, who has been seen in Jose Chung's From Outer Space, season 4's Unrequited, season 5 Chinga. The man is a rock star in this show.
He's a monster.
And then Doug Abrahams, Paul Vitaris. We saw him in Gender Bender, Field Where I Died, The Pilot, Hell Money. He's in a lot of shit as well.
He's getting some good residuals.
And I want to give a shout out to Dan Butler, who plays the main antagonist. Great actor. Loved him in Frasier. Love him here. And then a special shout out to Heather McComb.
Oh, yeah.
Who plays Shannon.
She's amazing in this one.
She is fucking phenomenal for her age.
It's
like unbelievable.
I've lamented in other episodes how the young talent often is the downside of the episode. But in this case, they clearly needed somebody with chops to pull off the monologue that she does. It's a long monologue too. Like, it goes on 3 or 4 minutes of screen time. So to own that's a lot of responsibility.
I have nothing to back this up, but I'm pretty sure this role landed her a complete episode in Millennium.
That's entirely
That's
possible.
that's my guess because she's in an episode of that.
Storied career too. I mean, we'll get into it, but ultimately, like, she's done 30 years worth of guest roles on TV, and occasionally a few where she has some repeats, but she is cast.
So please continue, sir.
After the credits, it's nighttime in Milford Haven. 4 teens, 2 boys and 2 girls, are walking in the backwoods, creepily lit up, towards what they describe as an altar. The plan's simple: do some satanic mumbo jumbo, freak out the girls, and get in their pants.
Get laid.
Everybody's done it, right? This is a perfect plan. So, beers in hand, the boys light some candles, and Dave incants the satanic prayer. The candles go out, and we hear disembodied voices in the background, and rats appear at their feet. It's too much. Andrea bolts, reciting her Hail Marys as she goes, chased by the others. Suddenly, a gout of fire explodes, stopping Jerry in his tracks. Recoiling from the flames, Jerry is caught in someone's stony grip, and it does not look like it's going to go well for Jerry. We fade and, of course, come back to a crime scene. There's Scully looking at the body as rain lands on her umbrella. The police and our intrepid agents are investigating the scene. As Sheriff John Oakes, our tour guide for this episode, let us know that this area has been used for witches' ceremonies. The kids live and listen to that devil music, and there are people that control things. In addition to the rumor mill, we learn that the victim, young Jerry Thomas, had his eyes and heart cut out, and his body was displayed in a ceremonial manner. However, as much as the overtones of a dark conspiracy of cultists set the stage, Scully unravels it a bit with some hard evidence. There are 2 six-packs of beer that a single boy won't be drinking by himself, and a page from a library book is found.
I'll have my staff start checking libraries for you, Agent Scully.
Better hide your Megadeth albums.
Theories like that are why I can't take him seriously.
The homicide did have a ceremonial presentation, the manner in which the body was displayed.
Mulder, I got the impression you didn't believe him either.
I didn't want to incite his already clearly aggravated imagination. There is a weird feel to this place, and maybe there's some truth to those rumors.
I think he incited your imagination. I think this case is nothing more than a murderer taking advantage of local folklore. I mean, there's nothing odd about...
The capper is when Scully is completely dismissing the idea, and toads fall from the sky, bouncing off their umbrellas and filling the air with loud ribbiting.
It's a bit of a humorous moment for this episode that takes quite a dark turn.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little start. I mean, it's a huge info dump of a scene. I mean, you heard my paragraph to recap it. There's a lot of stuff to go through, and it's super dense. But again, props to Kim Manners for efficiently getting us through this super dense scene. It's compelling. I don't know. It gets me right into it. This is, I'll wear it on my sleeve. It's one of my favorite episodes. But I did realize in going through it that there's some super flaws in this episode. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it's got a lot of things that let me give it a pass. So
I'm intrigued.
Yes, well, we'll get into it. Anything you want to dwell on in this opener?
No, I just think, yeah, like you said, it is that big info dump, but it sets the stage for the rest of the show, the rest of the episode. And it kind of needs to happen this way, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And the idea of having the toads fall from the sky, like they could have just sort of blacked out and gone to the next scene, but having that little bit...
Had to give some strange to keep the agents around.
Well, to set the stage that there's weird shit going to happen here. Just get ready. We cut next to the library in Crowley High School. Crowley, of course, being a fill-in for Aleister Crowley, the 19th century British occultist. Mulder does the work of the Milford Haven PD, going and just locating the book with a missing page for them. There it is. It's Witch Hunt, A History of the Occult in America by M.R. Kraszewski, right after Stephen King's 4 Past Midnight. Don't think you could slide that one past us in the episode. Scully arrives to solve the mystery of the flying toads. There are tornadoes in northern Massachusetts, which probably picked them up and dropped them in Milford Haven.
This is a Scully explanation, if ever there is one.
And even the expression on her face is like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Sorry, Scully, I'm not buying it.
I don't think so. Well, Mulder shows her the library index card, which reveals the book was last checked out by Dave Duran. So, this is going to be the next guy that we're going to go see, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, just so we are fully up to speed, the internet tells me there's an average of 1 tornado per year in all of Massachusetts. So, could have happened.
Okay. That's interesting.
I don't think Scully's...
It could happen, but
The odds are,
Unless it happened to form over Frog Pond and pick up all of them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty lame. Well, we're going to go next to science class with the camera lingering on a nervous Dave Duran, as well as glancing over at Shannon Osbury and Kate and Andrea from our scene in the woods. Class is being taught by the substitute teacher, Mrs. Paddock, who was filling in for Mr. Kingery. She's interrupted by a knock at the door, and the mere mention of the FBI sends Dave into a panic, who rushes to flee the room through a window. However, he's not a very good fleer. He's caught by Mulder.
He opens that window pretty quick. He knows,
Yeah.
He's very aware of his exits and how to get out, but Mulder catches him.
I think he's fled through that window before. He even clears the deck a bit before he goes.
He does. Yeah. Get the shit out of here.
Our next scene sees us in a light interrogation where Mulder and Scully interview Dave, Kate, and Andrea. Dave professes his innocence, that it was all a scam to try and have sex with the girls. He freaked out because he thinks he actually managed to summon out some devil or something. And in the midst of this, the camera shows us the 4 from the opening scene: Jim, Pete, Deborah, and Paul, the middle-aged Satanists. They're having a quiet huddle, trying to figure out what's going on. No one's claiming responsibility for what happened to Jerry, and Pete chimes in that he feels an angry presence is among them. Mulder and Scully let the kids go. To the faux anger of Jim, the quartet put on quite a good show of being outraged parents on the parent-teacher committee, convinced of a dark conspiracy to co-opt their children. Scully tells them of a report the FBI concluded that found no evidence of occult conspiracies, and that even if it was true with a number of murders that's been suggested, it would be the greatest conspiracy ever. To which Jim responds, "Finally, you people understand what we're up against." To me, it's a great scene.
Yeah.
Especially because we know the darker layer underneath these 4. Like, they're living little liars, just casting blame away from themselves where they try to sort out the real mystery.
We don't pray to the devil.
We are upstanding.
What's happening in our town?
We are pillars of the community, I'll have you know.
Yes.
I do.
Unhand me, good sir.
I do love the pivot, right? Like, they're sitting there conspiring, they're like...
Right. Up until the door opens, they're conspiring.
Yeah. And then they're like, why are you letting them go? Clearly responsible. It's cute.
And then that ominous look back at each other.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Lots of meaningful glances.
So your favorite shot's coming up.
My favorite shot? Oh, yes.
You reference it a lot.
I do go to town on this shot. And I do have some notes here. Okay. Mulder and Scully then have a scene where she suggests this is mass hysteria. But it's sidetracked by a truly terrible script choice. Mulder decides to have a drink of water from a drinking fountain, but he notes that the water is going down the drain the wrong direction. So, yes, I do poke at this scene a lot, and I have done so in other episodes of our show, so let me expand. For those of us who weren't listening during physics class, the Coriolis effect describes how objects influenced by the rotation of the Earth naturally turn in a clockwise direction north of the equator, and they naturally turn in a counterclockwise direction to the south of the equator. Mulder notes that the water is going down the drain in a counterclockwise direction, contrary to, quote-unquote, how it should be draining, and determines that something is here making these things possible. So, Mike, of all the ways to convince Mulder that something is here, why choose this?
I think because it's that tale everyone has heard. I'm not defending it. I
think you are.
This is a very 90s thing to have gone around, and I do remember hearing things like this as a kid, and what's possible and not possible. So it is an odd choice to say that the devil is affecting
the rotation of the
local atmosphere and the rotation of the Earth in such ways. But I don't think he's actually affecting the earth, but I think
the natural elements around them. Yeah.
his aura is affecting shit. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting choice.
It reminds me of Syzygy, where this idea of the planetary confluence,
The planet alignments.
changes the way things are supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. But what they're doing here is saying that the mere presence of this devil has subverted the laws of nature on a massive scale. So, I mean, for me, it was just a nerd that geeks out on this sort of thing. What else is being affected in this way? Like,
Bunch of flying whales.
yeah, flying toads, we know that much.
Flying toads, yeah.
I mean, it feels like this is just a neat thing the writers decided to add to make a cool scene, but they didn't really stop to think of consequences or how this would really play out, or frankly, if this is such a carved in stone scientific principle and Mulder is aware to comment on it, then why isn't he on the phone to a scientist getting them down there to fix up the research for their next Nobel Prize? I mean, it's this castaway bit, you know, it's like, hey, this cool thing happened. Huh. Let's go solve a murder, you know? It's
Let's go not do anything.
exactly. And I just really detest this moment. As much as I like the episode, this literally, if I was to re-edit it, it would be gone. So
Gone.
just gone. They did not need this scene. And also Mulder's wrong. Apparently there are many factors which influence how water goes down a drain, of which the Coriolis effect is only one. So that is all I will say on this topic. I will never refer back to it again.
You heard it here first, folks. Turn off your episode. This episode's garbage.
That's all you need.
Andrew hates it.
We're back in science class with Kate and Andrea, whom Mrs. Paddock stops to give a reassuring word. Mrs. Paddock's cool. And if the kids, want to talk, just talk. She's here to listen. The girls leave, saying, thanks, Mrs. Paddock. And Mrs. Paddock straightens her papers, opens up a desk drawer, puts them on top of a heart in the eyes of the recently deceased Jerry. She closes the drawer, smiles the smile of a villain we're going to see a lot of in this episode. So, sidebar. Episodes where we, the viewer, ride along with the villain. We just had this with Donnie Pfaster in the last one we reviewed. Are they good? Are they better than the other? What would it be like if we didn't have the point of view of the devil in this episode? Discuss.
I think it would be hard to do in this one, only because that's a good question. I think there are certain episodes where there's a lot going on, and it's kind of giving this episode a little bit more drive to have this entity that we follow, at least in some capacity, to show us what's happening, because there are a lot of things that happen to a lot of different people where it's like, okay, we could film it in a way that just tells us this person's doing it without showing it. But at the same time, I think to get all the little nuances of what she's doing and how it's affecting people would be hard to sell without showing what she's doing.
So
does that make sense?
It does. I think the interesting thing about this episode is we have two villains that we're actually looking over their shoulders. We've got the quartet. We have that lovely dichotomy of, on the one hand, they're, upstanding conservative values, all the rest. And on the other hand, they're really are dirty Satanists.
Bad people.
Yeah. But then we also have Mrs. Paddock, who is our villain. So it's an interesting take on the trope that they have had of looking over the villain's shoulder by giving us two sets of people to track. So I think it would have been more interesting if we didn't know it was Paddock and that we have a reveal at the end to show us that, in fact, she was the one that was directing it. Much in the same way as you don't like when they gave away Alex Krycek so early on.
Very much.
I think that they could have, and still encapsulated in one episode, gotten us to a place at the end where the reveal is, oh, it was Mrs. Paddock all along. And that would have had a lot more weight to...
That would be compelling.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Just given the fact that, she introduces herself as the substitute teacher. It's a throwaway line in any other episode. Why not here? So I can see that. That's a good point.
Yeah. I think it would have given a lot more weight to an ending as opposed to just she's gone at the end. And anyway, part of me wants to re-edit it. I might actually do it. It'd be kind of fun to see if all the time I natter on about what would have been a more interesting episode actually might play well. So
I think it'd be kind of fun experiment.
I think it would. All right. Keep your eyes open.
Keep your eyes peeled.
School is out, and Mulder is having a conversation with Pete Calcagni. I don't know how you say the character's name, so that's how I'm going to say it. Might just call him Pete from now on. The school guidance counselor. Mulder notes from reading private student records that there's a high incidence of depression, headaches, and eating disorders, which Pete handwaves away as being normal for high schoolers. Mulder doesn't get anywhere with Pete. He cites a doctor-patient privilege as a reason Mulder can't speak to these kids, even though Pete's probably not their doctor, and Mulder seems to have already read through their private files. So all that's kind of weird.
Oh, Mulder.
Scully
Illegal.
drops some research on the they question. I do like that they do reference the fact that everyone says they, where do these rumors come from? So Scully drops some research on the they question, a newspaper article from 1934 that uses the Jews as the bad guys and suggesting that the same conspiracy theory has been recycled today, but using witches and satanic cults as the drop-ins. Mulder lets us know that actual witches, known as Wicca, have a great reverence for all life in nature, and that even the official Church of Satan has renounced murder and torture. But importantly, their influence wouldn't explain the frogs, the water draining backwards, and the murder. Well, actually, their influence could explain the murder, but he's quick to go back to the supernatural, and why not? It's Mulder. We're back in science class.
Supernatural.
It must be the next day now because suddenly we're back in class. Mrs. Paddock is handing out cute little piglets from a trolley for student pairs to dissect for a final examination. Shannon and her lab partner look uncomfortable at the prospect, but eventually tuck into their task. Shannon begins to have what we assume are hallucinations, with her hearing a pig squealing, and the little piglet starts to move, and this prompts her to scream because she is not an insane monster, while Mrs. Paddock looks on for a short while, apparently enjoying the scene. What's your take on this? Because it was pretty out there.
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
I feel bad for these pigs. I know they do this all the time. I just feel bad. I'm an animal person. I can't stand it.
Yeah. Did you have to do dissection in high school?
I did.
What was the highest level of creature that you dissected?
I believe it was this.
Was this?
Pig.
I think we did earthworms and that was it.
I did worms. I did owl upchuck balls, those fossil ball things that they throw up.
I'm happy to say I don't know what you're talking about.
Owls throw up like this ball of digested food. So you know how they eat mice and shit like that. So that you'll open this hardened, it's almost like fabric. You tear it apart and there are these little bones and stuff inside. I don't remember what exact owl it was, but that was like 7th or 8th grade.
Okay. Do they poop? Or is this how they reverse poop?
I think it's part of it. I'm sure they poop, but
okay. I'm no owl expert. So.
I'm no owl aviary expert, but
owlologist.
Yes, I am not one of those.
Also interesting to note in the scene, we get our introduction to the snake in the and we'll come back. But clear little camera drop in to make sure that we saw that snake gets fed one of the pigs, which can't be good.
She just throws it in there.
It's that thing's got to be cured with formaldehyde. You don't want to feed your snake that.
It's a Satan snake, so
yeah, it'll probably eat whatever.
It can eat anything.
You got to wonder if that snake was there with Mr. Kingery's class.
I don't think so.
All right, so Shannon screams a lot. After the commercial, Shannon is sitting in the teacher's office wrapped in a blanket, and a kindly Mrs. Paddock is reassuring Shannon that she's seen this before. Some kids just can't handle a dissection. And Pete mentions that her father is coming to get her, but Shannon freaks out and runs away, Mulder in hot pursuit. His superpower tells him that she's remembering things, and that prompts her to have a 4-minute monologue. Tells the agents what she has remembered. Yeah, it's a long one. And that camera, man, it's a very slow pull in. It lingers. Yeah. It really draws it out. I mean, it is a tour de force for that actor, Shannon McComb. And, Heather McComb, excuse me.
Heather McComb.
Brilliant. Just brilliant. I'm not going to do a play-by-play of the monologue of terror. It's the upshot of the story is that her mom remarried to Jim, the head of the parent-teacher council. And when she was 4, Jim abused her and began to use her as a vessel in satanic rituals, killed her sister as a sacrifice. It's a very moving scene.
Yes.
Scully and Mulder go to the Osbury residence to confront the parents. Shannon goes to a friend's house. The agents split the parents apart to talk to them separately. Mrs. Osbury mentions that her and Jim have been having marital problems, not getting along, and confirms that Shannon had a sister, Teresa, who died not at 8 years old, but 8 weeks old of a crib death. All sounds very suspicious.
Very suspicious.
Did you do it?
I would kill anyone who did the things to her that she claims.
Not a very Christian tenant.
Thou, God of vengeance, shine forth.
Even the devil can quote scripture to fit his needs.
How dare you! Get out of our house! As far as I know, you put those ideas in my daughter's head. Now get out.
Get out of our house.
Sounds Mulder in a very Texan drawl. Yeah, this is not New Hampshire. Maybe he's originally from Texas. Get out of the house.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
Yeah, he's got some Texan in him. Back in science class, Shannon is going to do a makeup test with her own little piggy. Mrs. Paddock is convincingly reassuring, and we give Shannon some credit for wanting to overcome her fear and pass the test. Before starting the test, Mrs. Paddock offers to hold on to Shannon's little charm bracelet. Don't want it getting stuck in any pig innards. And Shannon gives it over. Shannon begins her dissection while Paddock goes into the back office, closing the blinds and beginning an incantation with Shannon's bracelet over a candle flame.
Dun, dun, dun.
She's going to do this candle business a couple of times in this episode, so we get the full effect of it going around this first time. And what we get is that by doing this, she's able to possess Shannon, making her slit her own wrists with a scalpel, all while seemingly calm.
Yeah, she uses her bracelet as like that device to control
something personal.
Yeah.
I like it's a callback to our opening scene with Jerry and Dave and Kate and Andrea. They say you need to have something personal.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get real close together.
Yeah, real close.
Yep. We cut to the classroom. Later, police in attendance, as well as our intrepid duo. An upset Mrs. Paddock says she heard the crash and came running, but didn't see anyone. She always locks the door after school. She gets afraid when she's alone. Mulder then surveys the scene and finds Shannon's bracelet on Paddock's desk. Now, I ask you, Mike, if somebody slit their wrists in the next room and you heard a scream and you rushed to investigate, think you could maybe administer some kind of emergency medical attention to save that unfortunate person's life?
No, the best thing is to just back away.
Yeah.
And don't say anything.
Listen, legal liability says don't touch anybody in distress. Wait for help to arrive.
Well, the crime has already been committed. She killed herself. So you don't want to disturb anything.
Oh, it's true. Well, Shannon's gone. Like we learn later on, she's dead.
She'd be dead.
Like that's a very quick bleed out.
Miss Paddock is merciless.
Yes. I'm surprised though that they're not more suspicious about the timeline, because it's like you heard a scream, you rushed out to investigate, but like she's gone. She's dead.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how long that takes, but
I think it takes a while. I'm no expert, but I don't think it happens right away. There's like 4 pints of blood in a human.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of blood to mop up off the classroom floor.
It's not Paddock's job to do that.
That's Dave.
Yeah, that's Dave.
The janitor.
The janitor. Well, later on, Jim, Pete, Deborah, and Paul are convened outside at night in the rain, huddled under umbrellas. Deborah suggests that this dark angel that's among them wants a sacrifice, with Paul lamenting that it's been years since they've done that. To which Pete suggests this is exactly why this is happening. They haven't kept their faith. Meanwhile, Jim just wants to know which one of them was responsible for what happened to Shannon. And this is where we learn that Shannon did indeed die. And that, more importantly, her death could be used to get rid of the law enforcement presence that's looking into their affairs. Jim is not appearing to be very convinced. He doesn't maybe want to use his stepdaughter this way.
There is a fracture in this quadruple couple here.
Yeah. You got to imagine this is like, no, it's a bridge too far. I get it, but I don't think I want to do this.
It's amazing the opportunistic nature of these people to see this person's death as good fortune.
An opportunity, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing I like most about this episode is it does humanize the Satanists. I mean, it's not really humanizing them, but it
humanizes and makes them, I can believe this happening.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's giving
this poor girl just died. Let's use it to our advantage.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to imagine they are built that way. They are opportunistic. That do what thou wilt is kind of their bread and butter. But it's the what if of what if you're a Satanist community? You've used that power to advance yourself, but now you've reached your pinnacle, and maybe you're not following the rights as you were before. Maybe you are comfortable with who you are. You don't want anything more, so you're not following it. How do you get out?
I think it's commentary, which I'll save for final thoughts, but yeah, it's interesting to me.
It's very interesting. Mulder and Scully are interviewing Mrs. Paddock, who puts on a convincing show. Mulder is skeptical. Paddock's office, for example, has the odor of incense used in black mass rituals. Scully says that Paddock explained it as a means to obscure the smell of formaldehyde. Scully does suggest there are some oddities about Mrs. Paddock. No one remembers her being hired, and she is substituting for Mr. Kingery, who suddenly and spontaneously developed flesh-eating disease. Mulder isn't convinced it is a coincidence and suggests that he'll get a search warrant for the Osbury house and that Scully should check deeper into Mrs. Paddock. And then the power goes out.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Mrs. Paddock steals Scully's pen.
Oh, no.
Nothing good can come of that.
Poor Scully. Always picked on.
Do you ever, have you ever seen the show The Kids in the Hall?
Oh, yeah.
My Pen? Have you seen that skit?
I don't recall. It was in the 90s that I watched that, but yeah, I used to watch it all the time.
Okay, listeners, stop what you're doing now. Literally put us on pause. Go and Google Kids in the Hall, My Pen.
My Pen.
Such a brilliant skit. You will piss yourself laughing. Very good.
Okay.
And then come back to us. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
If you didn't do that, you're horrible people. We cut to Mulder searching the Osbury house. He zeroes in on the cellar, taking himself and his flashlight saber downstairs. He searches the basement, Mark Snow's ominous music accompanying us as his beam passes over a red wall. And then Jim Osbury. Meanwhile, Scully's searching on the computer for anything related to Mrs. Paddock. She's finding nothing. Lightning crashes in the background. She's continuing her investigation, intercut with Mulder talking to Jim Osbury, as Mrs. Paddock conducts another candle flame ritual. This time, she's using Scully's pen over an open flame. This seems to give Scully the answer she's after, that there's nothing untoward about Mrs. Paddock. Meanwhile, back in the Osbury residence, Jim gives us his own monologue.
My religion, my family. Agent Mulder goes back in this town 7 generations. They fled persecution from people being persecuted, all in the name of religion. I was raised to believe Christianity was synonymous with hypocrisy. Man's natural tendency was to do what thou willst, not do unto others. We believe man is nothing but an animal. No better, no worse than those that walk on 4 legs. And although I believed our faith kept us powerful in the community, wealthy, good health. I came to see hypocrisy in the others. In me. When they told me to blame my dead daughter for Jerry Stevens' death, my reaction, I was sick that they would vilify an innocent, someone I loved, just to protect themselves. And at that moment, I knew I am better than an animal. That my previous beliefs were responsible for her no longer being with us. And then it was time to talk to you.
And then we have a bit more from Mulder. Did they include the kids in the rituals? Well, they did, but it sounds like they were watered down rituals and they avoided doing anything they were uncomfortable with. But ultimately, Shannon did mix up her young memories with what she saw on TV. Mulder's just asking who the other Satanists are when he gets a call on his cell. Mrs. Paddock, continuing her ritual, is able to impersonate Scully and tell him she's in trouble, and then the call drops because there's 1,000,000 volts of electricity in the air with all these lightning bolts. And Mulder hurriedly decides to put Jim under arrest and cuffs him to the handrail. He tears off to the school, locking Jim in the basement.
Is that protocol?
I think it is.
Yeah.
It's an emergency.
It's the I'll be right back measure.
Don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere.
Is the quip that you use in that moment.
You are under arrest, but I gotta go.
But you can't come with me in my rental car, even though you're clearly, on my side now.
I have a gripe with one thing.
Okay.
It's a small one. What about an object makes it yours?
Oh, yeah.
I can understand a bracelet. I can get on board with a bracelet.
Personal. Yeah.
A pen. Those are about as disposable as anything, right?
You know what it needed to be? Scully's necklace.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say they'd use that too much if they did that. So, but yeah, that would be better.
I think you would not be having a gripe right now if that were to happen.
That's true.
But you're right. That is maybe a go-to too far. But yeah,
I'm okay with it. But I just was thinking about it. I was like, what really makes it a personal item to be used against you?
Yeah. Do you just have to touch it? Do you have to own it?
Because you'd think there'd have to be an emotional connection. And ladies and gentlemen, while I do love a good pen, I don't necessarily form a bond with it. But that being said, I am not read in on the ins and outs of this particular spellcasting sect of society.
Could be that pen is super important to Scully. You don't know.
It could very well be.
I mean, I'm looking at the scene now, and she's got a notepad.
We're missing the shot of her patting. Where's my pen? Because that would tell us everything. Like, oh my God, she's upset.
Yeah. Mulder, where's that pen you gave me for my birthday? Yeah. Yeah, good point. A very good point. We return to the basement, and Jim is left by himself in the basement with a flashlight, crying at his predicament. Door opens, seemingly of its own accord. Although maybe it's a giant snake. Uh-oh. Yep, it's a giant snake. It slithers down the stairs, and it wraps itself around Jim's throat and strangles him to the chanting satanic chorus. So, do you think that the snake reached up and opened up the latch?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Paddock.
It's Paddock.
So, yeah. Probably.
It was a big snake, too.
Or maybe the devil's aura, which has affected many, many things.
It can make the water go bad the wrong way.
Just turns the knob for the snake.
Oh, that's probably what it is.
But one thing I do want to say about the scene is I love how quiet it is.
Oh, it's perfect.
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's so perfect without any music. And it's just good stuff.
And then all the music happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mark Snow leans in so heavy to the woo, That whole demonic chanting business. I'm surprised there's not more bongos, but
Fun side note, which I read on Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Dan Butler is terrified of snakes.
Of snakes? Oh, God.
So this scene, from what I read, the producers were like, we didn't have to use makeup for the sweat. So
nice.
That's all real.
Oh, God, I can't imagine. I mean, why do they do this to actors? Did
Poor
they
guy.
know that Dan was afraid of snakes?
I don't know, but that's apparently pretty authentic.
Erlenmeyer Flask, the dude is afraid of water, and they make him jump into a tank.
Yeah, pretty much.
These are awful people. So Mulder has reunited with a perfectly safe Scully. She's like, oh, I didn't call you. I've been here the whole time. What's that all about? Jim, however, has been completely consumed by the fast-eating snake. And a cut to Mrs. Paddock shows her wearing super cool snake eye contacts, complete with a, count it, 10-second extreme close-up on her eyes in case you didn't just miss the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Paddock is the snake.
Oh.
I am assuming that somebody in production said, we spent $840 on those contacts, and it took us 3 hours to get them properly inserted into her eyes. They had to use a special
She wouldn't hold still.
Yeah. So we took the world's longest take, and damn it, we're going to use all of it.
I like the heavy breathing, that really strained breathing she's got going for these sessions. It's very disturbing.
Well, and as the snake, she even has a little tongue lip thing.
Yeah.
It's good. I mean, she is kind of the star of the show.
She does a good job.
Heather McComb is great, but I'm sorry, it's really the lady that plays Paddock. Yeah. After the commercial, Mulder and Scully return to Osbury's house. Mulder's all like, oh, he's going to tell us who the other Satanists are. I cracked the case. It's all great. Only to find that Jim is no longer in the basement. They find
bones.
They find his bones. That's it. Bloody bones.
Sorry.
They do find Mulder's cuffs hanging on their own, and the skeleton that used to be Jim Osbury. That's one fast-eating snake.
That is a fast-acting snake.
Yeah. Even Scully is like, there's no way a python could do that. But she does make the connection. There's a snake in Mrs. Paddock's classroom. So that's where we're going next. Back at the school, the remaining Satanists, Pete, Deborah, Paul, they recap the plot. They confirm that Jim is dead, but he wasn't a true believer. He was talking with the FBI, and he might have told them who his compatriots were. They decide that their sacrifice, which is going to get them back in the good books with their demon Azuzel, their sacrifice is going to be the FBI agents, who conveniently pull up in their car. The trio decide to hatch a plan to ambush the agents, and Pete goes to lock his office door, and he finds that his keys are mysteriously missing. Kind of make a big deal of it. It's like, where are my keys? I just had them. I can't lock this door.
My keys.
A little throwaway? No, it will have relevance. Stay tuned. Agents enter the powerless school, lightning crashing in the background, flashlight beams illuminating the darkness, and they find Mrs. Paddock on the ground in her classroom. She tells them that she was attacked by the trio who were taking her snake. She points the finger at them as Jerry's killer, and Mulder tries to call for help, but his phone isn't working. Mulder and Scully go to lock the door and perhaps get help, going for once as a team, not splitting up. Can you believe it?
Red letter day. They have not split up, and it's crazy.
I feel like they had a little powwow beforehand saying, you know what, anytime we split out, something cool happens to me, and you're not there to see it.
Well, I think Mulder was like, you fake called me earlier, so I want to keep an eye on you because I still think you called me.
I still think that you're a little whack right now, so why don't you stay here? But of course, this is the one time where it doesn't work out for them because they get ambushed eventually, but I'll get to that. They open the office of the Satanists. This is where we've had our parent-teacher conference meetings. Scully finds Jerry's eyes, showing them to Mulder. I think we have found our killers, is what she's implying. It's time for our final action scene, with the Satanists launching their assault. Paul slams Mulder with a folding chair. It's a wrestling move. It's awesome. Deborah pushes a bookshelf onto Scully. Mulder gets the upper hand against Paul, but Pete blindsides him, and the agents are quickly disarmed. They're bound and gagged and dragged through the gymnasium to the showers. Pete following behind with a shotgun. Showers are turned on. Blood will be easier to clean up. And everything is very spooky now. Everyone illuminated in blue, a satanic chorus singing in the background. Deborah raises a sacrificial dagger, incanting. It looks like it's all over for our agents when we cut back to Mrs. Paddock and a candle. In the distance, we hear 2 gunshots. Back in the showers, a confused and still very much alive Mulder looks up at Pete, who is reloading his shotgun, and then he turns the gun on himself. Back to Mrs. Paddock, who says, "You're right. It is already too late."
Damn.
And the capper on this, Mulder and Scully free themselves and return to Mrs. Paddock's office. She's gone. However, on the blackboard is written the standard going-away dress of every substitute teacher ever. Goodbye. It's been nice working with you. As the camera pulls back, the power comes back at the school, showing our wet and bedraggled agents in a state of confusion. And the camera does a very sloppy track and move, like around them, and you can see them through the windows, but it's bouncing and jiggling as it goes.
Yeah.
Not their best camera work.
Not the best, but
eventually, though, we do end, and we fade to black.
That is an episode.
That is an episode and a half. So, what do you think of that action sequence?
I like it. It's fun. I like the turn of events at the end. You know, you see everything coming to a head, and it's like, okay, what's the devil going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, it's the keys. The keys are the key to taking down this trio.
The personal object, which is going to allow her to win in this one.
Yeah.
Now, tell me, why wouldn't the sacrifice of the FBI agents get them back into Azazul's good books?
I think it's along the lines of too little too late, you sons of bitches.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I took that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are part of my church. You believe in me. You're gonna worship me the way you need to worship me, or I'm gonna come down here or up here.
Yeah. Yes. There's a theological question. Sure.
Kick your asses for not doing it properly. And I think that's what she's doing.
I think that's fair to say.
They were too little too late, the FBI sacrifice.
Yeah. And the, I know there's a double meaning in the goodbye. It's been nice working with you. That's Paddock to the agents, but it's also Morgan and Wong to the crew, because this is their last episode for a while.
That's cute.
The relationship that Paddock is implying there with the agents, because if you look at it, the agents don't actually do anything in this episode.
Not a thing.
They are tourists. They observe things. They don't save anybody's life. They allow people to tell their stories. So I guess you could say that Mrs. Paddock used the agents to get the trio of Satanists into a position where she could kill them or have them kill themselves and tie up the loose ends. But she just wanted to off those people. She could have done it anytime. Didn't need to be this convoluted.
Yeah, I think Satan was running out of time. Wanted to have them all in one spot. And this was the way to do it. So
yeah,
I agree. I mean, it's the devil. They can do anything. So let's just, you got to look past it, I guess, is one of the things.
You do. And to the episode's credit, a lesser episode, I would what if the shit out of. I would. Yeah. And I don't until we get to this point. I'm like, well, wait a second. Would it not have been easier for this demon to do this? But I think that it also goes back to, I think this demon, this devil, whatever, has a sense of humor, has its own agenda,
exactly.
Has the things which make it tick, and maybe part of it is watching people dance to their music.
I would very much believe that, because if you look at the other deaths, they've all been creative in some weird way. Yeah. So I can write it off like that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, do you want to give me your final thoughts on this one?
Yeah. I think my favorite aspect of this episode is it feels like an adventure. And as we like to say, the agents do nothing in this episode, like many others. But this one has a little bit more fun to it. It's dark for sure, and it takes some dark turns, but overall it's just the idea of it, the agents against Satan or the devil it's so ridiculous and entertaining in and of itself that I just enjoy it. And the guest actors on this episode are spot fucking on. Dan Butler, Heather McComb, I can't say enough good things about them. They really helped bring this episode together. And you could tell that on top of everything, Morgan and Wong just wanted to go out with like a fun episode that's on a logistics level ridiculous, but something believable enough for the show. And it came out very well.
Yep, indeed. So on the one hand, I love this episode for all the bits I have enumerated. On the other hand, it's got a bit going against it, as I have also enumerated. It reeks of style. Like, it's just so well shot.
Yeah.
There's so many logistical elements which cannot have been easy. They did a lot of shooting in the rain, which I'm guessing was probably not manufactured rain. I think it was probably just a rainy period. As I think I've said, I love how they explore the idea of what a modern Satanist lifestyle would be and how the sacrifices made, pun intended, could come back to haunt you. There's a lot to think about in this one. But the negative would be for me that our agents don't actually get to do anything other than to pay witness to the strange events in Milford Haven and barely manage to avoid getting killed in the process. But I had this sense that Mrs. Paddock would never have let that happen. You know, this is how it ends up being.
I think before anything, the devil in this episode is meant to be vengeful. And no, maybe I might take that back because she did kill the boy in the forest.
I think that was an inciting incident that was meant to sort of jumpstart the events. I don't think she could guarantee the FBI would be involved, but, the law enforcement would be involved.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what I was going to say was that there is an element of payback to the people who should be supporting the devil based on their religious alignment. So anyone else on the periphery who doesn't really worship Satan, they are of no consequence to the devil at this point. So she's not going to allow them to be harmed necessarily, except I guess for Shannon, who was used to get at Dan Butler.
Yeah, that was a personal payback, I think.
Yeah,
for him to have his doubts, I think that is the payback against him. Interesting question before I finish my final thoughts. Dave Duran's summoning at the very beginning of the show, is that the inciting incident which actually brings Mrs. Paddock into existence?
I think it had something to do with it.
Yeah,
for sure. Because
they certainly shoot it in a way to make us believe that he is responsible. Like, his actions create the consequence that the angel of darkness is among them.
Yeah, I think the devil was coming anyway, but this is another excuse. Someone else misusing the religion. It was just like the gateway,
Yeah, very much. Yeah, I like that interpretation too. I think it's neat. There's the interesting decision on Morgan and Wong's part to give us the perspective of not one, but two sets of villains. So we get to see much more of the action that we might not normally get to see. It gives us these unparalleled insights into how the villains are going to do what they're going to do and why. So for that alone, I give it a pass. It's really an interesting narrative choice. Like, as I've gone on at length, are episodes better or worse when you get to see over the shoulder of the villain? In this case, you got your choice of people to see over their shoulders, including the agents. And you get to see how everybody's actions kind of interrelate to each other. It's just really intricately and well done. So I like that. And of course, as Morgan and Wong's last episode, the double meaning of it's been nice working with you. I'm sure it was especially meaningful to the crew at the time.
Yeah. That was a cool thing.
It was.
Highly respectable people too. So
yeah,
they contributed a lot to the show up until this point, helped it get through the first 1.5 seasons. And the show's better for it. So
Yeah, definitely. Shall we read off some listener comments?
let us read off some comments. What do we got?
Well, why don't you do Emily's and I'll do Josh's this time. Maybe I'll do a better Josh impersonation than you.
That's very possible. Emily Messenger says, for Hand Die Verletzt, I was 11 when this episode first premiered. Between this episode and Syzygy, I was convinced that at some point in my school career, I would be propositioned to join a cult, have a teacher that turned out to be a demon, or run across some occult ceremonial altar in the woods. Imagine my disappointment at the utter lack of supernatural experiences throughout my childhood. I still don't understand why my parents let me watch this show. Very, very true. This show paints these pictures, doesn't it?
I imagine she's looking up those stars every night when she's 11 going, damn, if that happens on my birthday, shit's going to fly. Yeah, what an
Satan
interesting
come to
thing.
my school.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a testament to the show's interleaving of things that are real and things that are fantastical. And it just rides that line enough that you could believe it happening to you.
Yeah.
I think that's always why I thought this show works, because it's not just so wacky that you're like, oh, I can see it as,
Well, that's part of the fun. It's not so ridiculous. I mean, it can be for sure, but
yeah,
it's not so ridiculous that, you just write it off as fanciful nonsense. It can be fun because the show itself originally was rooted in some true stories, so to say.
Josh says, Die Hand is probably my favorite example of an episode where the agents basically accomplish nothing because they shouldn't. It isn't a writing miss. It's playing in the devil's sandbox and being totally out of their league. Also, Church of Satan got some good ideas, just saying. Interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot take.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Coming in hot, Josh.
Yeah, I agree. How do you prosecute the devil? How do you prosecute this case?
That's partially what I'm saying, when it's just like they wanted to go out with a bang, and this is just pure fun. It's dark material, but it's done in a way that's very enjoyable to watch, and the agents go for a ride on this one.
They sure do. I mean, I don't know if we see many episodes where they are a hair's breadth from being killed, basically.
Yeah, I think that's another scene that keeps it interesting for me, is just how close they came to dying, and the gruesome manner in which she chose to have the trio kill themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Shotgun to the head. Oh, man.
What a report they'll have to write up.
That is a messy shower room.
Well, the water's running.
Well,
easy
yeah, but that didn't get everything.
Well, are we finished with our tour of Milford Haven in New Hampshire? I think that it's been an exciting time reviewing this one, but can't linger. Got to move on sometimes.
With much respect to the devil, I think it is time to move on.
Indeed. So good night for me. Mike, would you like to say goodbye?
Good night, everyone. Say your prayers.
Don't let the devil get you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming.